Geek to me radio, da 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 da. Geek to me radio, da 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 da.
Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new edition of Geek to Me Radio. Tonight we are joined live by former Color Me Bad frontman Bryan Abrams talking about a brand new documentary he's got out that you're going to want to hear about. After that, we'll talk with actor Ceilia Au about a brand new movie, A New York Mint, out, as well as her work in Woo Assassins. All that and more, please stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And if you're driving around the greater St. Louis area tonight, listening to us on the Big 550 KTRS, celebrating 25 years in broadcasting, hello to you and thank you for tuning in. If you're streaming us on the web, hello to points out there on the internet. We appreciate your listening. No video streaming tonight. My executive producer has the night off. He wanted to spend some time with his father, which of course it is Father's Day. Happy Father's Day and happy Juneteenth weekend to everyone out there celebrating. And no video tonight. It's just audio, the good old-fashioned radio like it was meant to be. And we're joined by two great guests. My first one's on the phone right now. He is an internationally recognized, two-time Grammy-nominated American Music Award and two-time Soul Train Award-winning R&B pop singer-songwriter with over 12 million albums sold worldwide, 3 Billboard #1 Hot 100s. A lot of people will recognize him as the frontman, lead singer for the band Color Me Bad. We've got on the phone right now Mr. Bryan Abrams. Thanks much for taking time out of your Sunday to be on air with us.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So this new documentary you've got out, I love this kind of stuff because it tends to be very inspirational, and that's the kind of thing I think the world needs more of right now. You've got Flowers in the Addict, which the Bryan Abrams story, obviously play on Flowers in the Attic, which I love the play on words, and that's premiered at a couple of film festivals already. Talk a little bit about the genesis, like how long ago did this germ of an idea come into your brain, and to where we are now in the project?
Well, I've actually had the title Flowers in the Attic, in my heart, in my mind for years, but the film has just been finished. Just in time to be put into the Dead Center Film Festival. And it's basically me just trying to talk about my story, talk about addiction and how it has affected my family and me, and how I got sober, in hopes that maybe I'm going to help someone else out there that might feel like, they need a little extra push, or they feel like they're alone. Just wanted to be transparent, own all of my mistakes, and just say, look, it doesn't matter how bad it gets, you can still get your life back.
And obviously that's something a lot of people, you move into the music space, especially at the level that you hit at. Same with people in Hollywood and entertainment and everything like that. And there are all of a sudden all these new doors that open up to you. There's all sorts of people who are trying to influence you. You're going certain ways. Drugs and alcohol is something that a lot of people in your line of work wrestle with. Do you remember the time when you first realized for you it had become a problem?
When I realized it had become a problem, I would say whenever I had come off of a tour, we had been touring for about 2 years straight, and I came home, went back to Oklahoma City, where my whole family is originally from, and I was so used to drinking on a daily basis on the road. When I got home, I didn't know how to not do that. It was odd. I was like reminded that I was in the real world again, and this isn't something that people do every day. So I would say whenever I was wanting to, and I was a little embarrassed because I didn't want to constantly be drinking in front of my family, that's when I really thought, okay, this is a problem.
Yeah, and it's one of the things. Luckily, a lot of people too don't have that family support system. So it sounds like your family really did save you, in a manner of speaking.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of my family actually on both sides have addiction, alcohol problems, mental health issues, and that sort of thing. I'm sure every family does or have someone. But my wife now, the woman that was basically my best friend, she's the one that really kind of stepped in and, genuinely wanted to help me, genuinely wanted to see me, survive this thing and live out to my full potential. And so I feel like I owe her. That's also part of the film, is I'm thanking her for, believing in me when I didn't believe in myself, loving me when I didn't love myself, and seeing the flowers in the attic, so to speak.
So obviously, I'm immediately reminded of the play Flowers in the Attic. Is that kind of like, was that play something that resonated with you, and that is kind of why you chose that as your title?
Yeah, well, I mean, the film was, the Flowers in the Attic. I thought it was really cool. It had kind of a dark thing to it, but it just, I liked the title and the movie. Now, my story isn't anything like that movie, but just it's just the way that it rung for me and the way it felt. Flowers in the Attic. It kind of it's kind of a juxtaposed type of a thing where you're finding the good things in a bad situation as opposed to doing the opposite.
And I'm trying to think of how to phrase it, because obviously this is, so we just had Mental Health Month. I guess it was last month, I think. But a lot of people struggle with this. And it's one of those things where I think the more people talk about it, like you're doing with this documentary, I don't want to say, I hate to say it's normalizing it, because it's not normalizing, but it's kind of giving people permission to say, hey, there's a lot of broken people. You're not alone. And that's one of the reasons I think the stuff like this that you're putting out there is so important.
You just said it all. It is actually normalizing it and making people a little more comfortable with talking about it. You see someone in film or sports or just in any type of entertainment business, and you tend to think that, wow, I bet, they grew up with money, or I bet they grew up with a really supportive family. And that's not always the case. My father was murdered when I was 2 years old, so I never really knew him. He had an alcohol problem. From what I've been told from my family, my uncle and my aunt on my father's side, and then there's others on the other side. But people don't want to talk about that because they feel that people will think badly of them or badly about their family, and there's so much of it that's just being hidden and not talked about. The more people step up and start to speak about this, the more people will start to feel comfortable about being open and honest about it. And I think that's what's going to help people. These entertainers on the road, you hear about these, people that have overdosed or committed suicide on the road. It's because they didn't have anybody to talk to. They didn't have anybody to share it with. They didn't know where to go with that kind of stress in their lives.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, the whole trick is to get people to understand that there's always going to be somebody that will be willing to sit down and talk with you about these things you're going through, and we can guarantee you're not the only one going through them.
And coming up in the 90s, it's kind of interesting when you think about the music of, people have an image of 70s music versus 80s music versus 90s music, when a lot of the R&B and hip hop really started to hit, I feel, was in that 90s era. And I don't know if people obviously the idea is in the 80s, everyone was doing cocaine and everyone was, doing drugs and everything. I feel like the 90s, certain aspects of it were trying to at least give the appearance of being sanitized, but behind the scenes, had much really changed?
How about this? You're perfectly right on the surface, but behind the scenes, the 90s had a little bit of that 70s and a little bit of that 80s and the drugs that came with both of those decades. You know what I'm saying? It was like a combination of all of the above sort of thing.
And being as big as you guys were, because like we mentioned when we gave your intro, I mean, all the accolades and the hits and the charting constantly. You were meeting people from all through the music industry. The Color Me Bad's music appeared in movies and TV shows and everything like that. You guys played yourselves on an episode of 90210 for crying out loud. I guess when you were now looking to make this documentary, I'm assuming you met people who you said, hey, I'd love to work with this person to do the video for Flowers in the Addict, or I'd like this person to edit. How did you kind of assemble the team to work on this project with you?
Well, I just found someone that had already shot some similar type of films, short films or docu-series, some people call them, somebody that had already taken the time to put together a type of documentary like that, bringing things. They had actually done a film or a docuseries called Killing Pain, and it was about the opioid addiction and the opioid epidemic and how it was affecting people's lives. And I just thought I wanted to build on that and kind of step into not just opioids and that sort of thing, but alcohol and mental health just kind of all rolled into one, because I can guarantee you that all these different types, whether it be pills or alcohol or whatever it may be, there's some mental illness or some mental health issues that are at the base of that.
And the documentary you mentioned premiered at the Dead Center Film Festival. The film's world premiere was on Friday, June 10th at Harkins Bricktown 16 Theater in Oklahoma, and also Rodeo Cinema Stockyard City. What when you're releasing this, did you? I'm kind of a layman, obviously, when it comes to this kind of stuff. Is it going to the film festival circuit? Was it shopped around to obviously Netflix and Amazon? The streaming services are constantly competitive. What were the initial phases of this before it got released, and what are the next steps in your mind?
That's actually what's happening now, I think, is they're shopping it. It was put in the Dead Center Film Festival to kind of shine a light on it, I guess, and to get, some local people to check it out. The awesome thing about this festival was it changed up a little bit a couple years back, or when COVID hit. So now they have this virtual. You don't have to be at the actual Dead Center Film Festival in Oklahoma to see it. You can actually go to my website or Dead Center Film Festival. It'll be showing for another day and night. And then they're going to probably shop it to some different networks. But you can go to Bryan Abrams or BryanAbramsMusic.com, and it'll tell you how you can order the film and watch it. And it's basically like just a short film condensed version of something we want to take to the next level.
And for those of you who might be listening, if you're driving in your car right now, we'll have that link to his website in the show notes. If you're going home, you can listen to this after fact in the podcast form, and we'll have a link to BryanAbramsMusic.com in the show notes. That way you can just click the link if you're listening to this after the fact, or if you can't jot it down, we don't want you to crash and drive your car off the road if you're trying to plug it into your iPhone as of right now.
Yeah.
With the music scene, it's like I said, when I think of going, I was in high school and I remember hearing these songs. It's one of those cool things that we had to do. Kids today won't understand. I sound like an old man. Where you have to hit record right after the DJ stops playing so you can get the song on tape and then stop it again. That had to have been every high school kid all across the country doing this in the 90s when your songs would come on the radio. Talk a little bit about how your life changed once you guys really hit.
Wow. That's actually part of what the film is talking about, us not really being prepared. You think you know what to expect because of what you've seen on television, but you really don't have any idea. And it's every kid's dream to want to be famous or to want, everyone to know their band or, want to listen to their music. But once you make it to a particular level, the privacy is kind of out the window. Suddenly you've got a magnifying glass on you and you've got to watch everything you say and everything you do, because there's always someone watching, and there's going to be people that are watching to want to praise and maybe talk about positive things. But there's also those people out there that are going to be watching and waiting for something negative they can build on. And so you just have to accept, and we didn't. We were young, and again, I ended up with an alcohol problem, and just wasn't aware. I thought I wasn't breaking any laws. I was, thought I was handling my business and everything okay, but it just kind of, it took over, and we just weren't prepared for what we had ahead of us, or what I had ahead of me.
And you talked about being so young. You, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you guys first performed together in a school talent show, and a lot of the music at the time was kind of that Sam Cooke, Four Tops kind of influence. Was that the kind of music that you grew up listening to, or was that something you were introduced to? Talk a little bit about how you developed your sound.
The music that we actually sang together, because, we all knew each other from a very young age. I knew Kevin in the 6th grade. Mark and Sam actually went to elementary school together, and we all ended up going to the same high school. Now, I was listening to New Edition, Bobby Brown, but my bigger influences like Journey, the Commodores, all of the big 70s. Like, I listened to a lot of 70s music, Al Green. It was all over the place, very eclectic. But the four of us, we wanted to do that old school, like Sam Cooke, doo-wop kind of music because of all the harmonies. So it's kind of like we found a new love, and we kind of learned as we went along. We started digging through these old albums and finding, when you could still go to a record store and buy an actual wax record. We would go digging through albums and just looking for these old songs that had these harmonies in them. And anyone that we could find that was catchy, or that we really thought was a nice tune, we wanted to learn it, and we wanted to sing it at a talent show, or in the hallways at school, or just wherever we could find a place where there was some nice acoustics that we could sing some harmonies.
And for those of you just now tuning in, perhaps we're talking with Color Me Badd frontman Bryan Abrams about his new documentary, Flowers in the Addict, the Bryan Abrams Story. I'm going to take a real quick commercial break. Are you okay to stick with me for just a little bit longer?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. We're going to take that quick commercial break. We're going to come right back, chat more with Bryan Abrams on the Big 550 KTRS. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio. Please stand by.
Hey, God, Bryan, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Listen to Geek to Me Radio and then try to take over the world.
The Pinky and the Brain. Yes, Pinky and the Brain.
Welcome back to Geek to Me Radio. I'm your host, James Enstall. I want to make sure we tell you about our official movie sponsor, Marcus Theaters. If you go to the website, marcustheaters.com, you can find the location of the Marcus Theaters or Movie Tavern closest to you. They've got locations all over Arkansas, Colorado, Georgia, Minnesota, right here in Missouri, Nebraska, Louisiana, New York, Pennsylvania, Texas. If you're wanting a good place to go see a movie in the best possible surroundings, Marcus Theaters and Movie Tavern should be your pick. It feels like summer blockbuster movie is back. We've got Lightyear is out. Next weekend, we've got Elvis on the big screen. Obviously, tickets are on sale for Thor, Love and Thunder, Jurassic World, Dominion, and Top Gun Maverick still doing gangbusters at the box office. If you want to get out and see one of these movies, do it in style. Do it at Marcus Theaters. You can also download the Marcus Theaters app for your smartphone. That way, if you're out and about, you hit the app, find the location closest you are, buy your tickets right there, get your concessions online so they're ready and waiting for you when you arrive. Always a great time to go see movies, and when you do, you want to see it in the best possible surroundings. MarcusTheater.com is the website. Again, we always say it's the best movie-going experience in the galaxy. Chatting for a little bit longer here with my guest, Bryan Abrams from Color Me Badd, his brand new documentary, Flowers in the Addict, out. Chatting about music, chatting about his recovery, and he's got it all covered right here. And we were talking before we went to break about the songs you kind of grew up listening to and kind of what influenced your group. Obviously, there were a lot of number one hits you guys had, from obviously I Want to Sex You Up. You had all these charted songs that came and it hit the big on the Billboard. You're back into singing songwriting now. You've got a new song out that's part of the documentary. Talk a little bit about Because of You.
Because of You is probably the song that I've written that I hold closest to my heart. It's a song that I wrote for my wife, basically thanking her for being there for me and believing in me and helping me, kind of helping me find my way. And so it's actually in the film, at the end of the film, And it's out now, so you can go to any music platform out there, or you can go to BryanAbramsMusic.com or just Bryan Abrams. But it's actually, I feel like there's not enough of the balladeers out there anymore. You know, all of these songs, and I love music of all sorts, but there's not enough of the old, like, crooning style, you know, just really pouring your heart out type of songs out there anymore. They're hard to come by. And so I just really wanted to do something like that to kind of capture that old sound, but with the new technology and the new software, and, you know, just it's a really, really beautiful song.
And I assume that's up on Spotify. People can get there, Apple iTunes, things like that.
Yes. Yep. All music platforms, they can go and check it out. And that one's in the film, and I actually have some music coming out in some other movies. There's a movie called Ask Me to Dance that's got one of my songs in it. So I picked a good time to get sober, I guess. You know, I got sober right as COVID was hitting, and it gave me an opportunity to stay home and spend time with my family, but also just to get back into writing again and just trying to get my music out there. It's what I love to do, more so even than performing, is writing and placing music in movies and film. And so it's what I love to do.
That's interesting, too, because when we talk to musicians, composers, singers, whoever they might be we've had on the show in the past, I'll ask them what if they had to give up one aspect of it, what would it be? And some of them say, well, you know, I like performing. It's that energy of the crowd. And some people are like, oh, I like the songwriting. Other people say, I just want to play my music. So if you had to give one of the things up, it would be live performing. And so you could focus more on the songwriting aspect, do you think?
That would be exactly what it is. I'm a big kid, and I love being in that room with all the big grown-up toys and recording and experimenting with sounds, and just that's my absolute favorite thing to do, is the creation part of it.
And with the songs that Color Me Bad had for hits, obviously I mentioned I Want to Sex You Up because that was the one that was on nonstop on the radio in high school. But we also obviously I Adore Me More, Slow Motion, All for Love. Was there ever a song that you guys had that, you know, you may have released an entire album and one of the ones that charts and you're like, oh, that's not the song I would have thought would have charted off the album? Were you ever surprised, or did you kind of know the ones that were going to hit were the ones that were going to hit?
No, you actually don't. I mean, I cried when I found out that the version of I Want to Sex You Up that they were going to use for the movie, like I threw a little temper tantrum. I was like so freaked out that because I thought that was we were supposed to be laying the demo for it. So I didn't get to go back in and re-record the vocals. Oh. And so I lost my mind for about 2 days thinking my career's over, and I hadn't even gotten it started because people are going to hear this horrible version of the song because I wasn't happy with what I had done. And it just goes to show, you know, and my manager at the time even said, you know, you never know what's going to hit. What you don't think is good, the whole entire world might want to argue that point with you. And I have to say, that song took off and put us on the map, and I was scared to death when they released it.
And obviously, someone knew what they were doing then, because it obviously did really, really well for all of you. Yeah,
they knew what they were doing for sure. New Jack City, man, it was. Yeah, it's you know, old drug mob movies, and I was just happy to be a part of it.
What a cast in that movie too! My goodness. But
right.
the other movies you guys have been attached to, and the TV shows, I mean, as recently as Glee, which was on it feels like it was just 5 years ago. I know it's a little bit more, but they covered songs there because they had a bevy of songs on that show all the time. When you hear your song,
my favorite show that I got to place music in was actually a show that's out now called Young Sheldon. I don't know if you're familiar with that show, but they've actually had several of the songs in there, and that is such a funny show, man.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, for those who were listening, that's the Chuck Lorre kind of spin-off from The Big Bang Theory. But yeah, it's a really smart show, and I love that aesthetic, the whole, you know, I hate to say period piece because, again, that makes me feel old, but it's from obviously when Sheldon was growing up. But yeah, the music they've used in that, it's nice to hear some of the songs again. It's one of the great reasons to watch the show. Yeah, I loved the show, and I'm still a big fan of it. Actually, I love the what did you call it? The timepieces. I actually period piece. Yeah.
Yeah, the period piece. I love those types of movies.
Yeah, I often, when I think about that, period pieces like that Benedict Cumberbatch movie who was a spy in the 60s, but then people are pointing out 80s movies with that aesthetic. I'm like, no, that's not right. That can't be a period piece. No. But that's just vanity on my part, I guess.
Yeah, I guess we're kind of, well, I'm not sure how old you are, but I guess I'm getting to that age where I have to accept that I'm kind of considered old school a little bit. So, but that's okay. I'm good with that.
No, you're still churning out some great content, and so old school, I think, never goes out of style. So I think you're good.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
No problem. And if people want to keep up with you, we mentioned your website earlier, BryanAbramsMusic.com. Again, if you're listening to this after the fact in the podcast form, scroll down to the bottom of the page. There's a link right there in the show notes. If people want to keep up with you online, those social media handles, are you very active on social media?
At Bryan Abrams Music. At Bryan Abrams Music, or just Bryan Abrams. They can also go to Flowers In The Addict. .org if they want to check out some of the stuff we're trying to get jump started as far as the nonprofit goes. Yeah, that's what's going on right now.
Very cool. Sounds like you're keeping very busy. Continued success to you. Continued luck on your sobriety. I know from friends of mine who have gone through it's an everyday struggle. So my prayers and thoughts are with you that you can keep that up.
Thank you so much, man, and I really do appreciate you having me on. I really do appreciate it.
Anytime. Love to have you back on. Thank you for your time tonight, and be well.
All right. You too, man. Have a great night.
You too. There he goes, Bryan Abrams. We'll have that link up for both the documentary as well as the website in the show notes if you're listening to this after the fact. We're going to take a real quick commercial break once again, come back, chat with actor Ceilia Au all about her movie In a New York Minute, her work on Woo Assassins, and more. Please stand by.
Hi, it's Parvez Chino from Netflix's Centaur World, and you're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
We are back. Want to make sure we tell you about our official comic book sponsor, Bugs Comics and Games. BugsComicsandGames.com is the website. Just ran into Larry. He was set up at MightyCon here in St. Louis. If you were at that event, I hope you had a great time. It was right over there in the St. Charles Convention Center. And he was up there, had a lot of people coming by. It's always, I'll see him set up, and I've been to the store, obviously, but he's got a whole new box of new stuff I've never seen before. It's like, where did you get this? He just got a collection of foreign comic books, like the larger size magazines that they have over in England. He had Thor and Hulk and Spider-Man, all these other stories. And it's always cool to see the new stuff. So if you've been to Bugs, maybe you haven't been there lately, go back and check out what he might have that's brand new. All sorts of collectibles, toys. He's got cards and all those things you might want to be checking out, maybe add to your collection as well. And of course, join the Avengers Club while you're there. It's a great way to save money on your hobby. Each week you get to save money on your new comics, your back issues, your supplies, your aforementioned toys, collectibles, and games, whatnot. And be sure to give their page a like on Facebook. Just go to Facebook and look for Bugs Comics and Games there. I know that Terry, it's a combination of Larry and Tim, the two people who own it. Larry and Tim would greatly appreciate you giving their Facebook page a like as well. If you want to get into the hobby, if you want to start brand new, or if you're a longtime collector and want to add to your existing collection, maybe you want to sell your collection, check them out, BugsComicsandGames.com. Very pleased to have them as the official comic book sponsor here on Geek to Me Radio. All right, we're going to roll with that right into my next guest. Right now, we're talking with actress Ceilia Au about a brand new project that she's got out In a New York Minute as of May 3rd. You can catch this movie on demand, and I highly recommend you do. Ceilia, thanks for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So you've done so much TV work, and you've done film work and everything like that. You've got this project out now. I looked on IMDb, and it lists In a New York Minute as something that came out in 2019, but obviously with COVID, things have been shuffled all over the board. So how long ago did you actually start working on this project?
We actually filmed In a New York Minute 2018.
Okay.
I think like end of 2017 into 2018. And then, hold on, let me backtrack this. Yes, end of 2017 into 2018. And then we had like our premiere and the festival run in 2019, and then COVID happened.
Yeah. It kind of threw a lot of projects into disarray and everything like that. But I guess the good thing is it was already filmed and in the can and ready to go, so you didn't have to shut down the middle of production. So that's helpful. So now that this is getting back out there, is it one of those things as an actor, as someone who's put their heart into a project, is it hard to build that hype back up? Because like you said, you hit the festival circuit, you did all the stuff, the premiere and everything, and now it's coming back. Is it hard to kind of reshift your mind and your focus onto this project that you already basically had done 3 years ago?
For me, I don't think so, because honestly, where did the last 2 years go? It just blinked and went by, and nothing happened much. So I'm just happy that the film got distribution, because not a lot of times indie films don't really get the attention, and they get distributed and then people don't get to see it. So I'm just super proud that the film got distribution and now it's on VOD and people can actually have a chance to watch it.
And to your point, I think a lot of these big budget Hollywood productions, I think especially COVID kind of smashed a lot of their realities, because they think anything they put out is just going to do gangbusters. Now with the theater shutting down during COVID, I feel like because we have streaming services and, on-demand video and everything, I think a lot of people's focus has been more towards the smaller indie projects, and people are appreciating them more because they're more story-driven. There's more character focus, as opposed to we get X big-name actor, we throw in all these special effects, and we're going to make bank on this movie. I think that is subtly changing, especially in the past couple of years.
I think both is needed, right? We need, the big budget, superhero fighting crime to be entertaining, to feel good, right? Also, but our film in a New York Minute has more story based, where we see a side of story where these three females and things that they're going through, and it's not a light film. It's not something that you get to laugh about, right? So I think we need a balance in both. When people need entertainment, when they just need an escape, definitely I think those films are necessary. And films like ours have story driven, and I guess in a way, we can have more empathy towards these characters and learn about each other's lives.
And for those of you who are listening right now, In a New York Minute follows three strangers as they accidentally discover the solution to their problems lies in a single pregnancy test. Amy is haunted by a past breakup that is manifested into an eating disorder. Angel is caught between a loveless marriage to an American businessman and a passionate affair with a Chinese writer. Nina moonlights as an escort in order to support herself. It's these, like we said, character-driven stories I think are really drawing people in. I love seeing the indie films because, in my opinion, you can put them up against some big blockbusters, and the story, that's what I like as a good story. I really don't care about all the other stuff. Not that I'm a huge Marvel Comics fan, just saw Doctor Strange and everything. But these character-driven indie films, I think, are really the backbone of the film industry right now. Talk a little bit about your experience filming this particular project.
Oh, actually, it's great. I first got approached with because one of the producers on the project was someone that I know, and they're like, "Hey, can you take a look at this project and send us a tape?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then when I read about it, I was like, "Wow, it's kind of like a New York I Love You, Paris Je t'aime, and like little story." But in those like New York I Love You and Paris Je t'aime, they're so small, and you don't dive into these characters.
Yeah.
And in New York Minute, you actually dive into like the backbone of their characters' family, relationship, and struggles that they go through. And I was like, this is awesome. And then having the pregnancy test tied in, it's not something that is forced, it was just so happened, that they were figuring a way out with a pregnancy test and like kind of helping these characters move through and finding their freedom. Mm-hmm. But this movie is like the director, Manzi Lee, and she also goes by Mandy. She's a first-time feature director. She's directed short before, and this is the first time her writing a feature film. And I'm super proud of young talent being able to do stuff and being also like validated, because sometimes it's discouraging when you put your heart and soul into something and nothing happens to it. And also partially the film is mostly a female department head leading team and crew as well. Like our DP Mago, she's a badass cinematographer. Lisa, our costume designer, our props, set design, they're all females. And I think you can also see it on screen, and there's a level of trust like on screen and behind the scenes in the film.
And in fact, Talking Pictures called in A New York Minute, one of the top 10 directorial debuts that they've seen in almost a decade. So that's high praise right there for, like you said, a brand new filmmaker and everything like that. And I feel like Hollywood, at least from an outsider's perspective, it seems like they're doing their best to give more opportunities there to first-time people, to allow women to take more of a spotlight role than they ever have. So I feel like this is a great time. But as someone like you who is in the industry, is that just the outsider? Is that the gloss that everyone's putting on for Hollywood? Or is that actually some real change that we're seeing?
Well, we're definitely seeing real changes in us. And like we have like female directors like Lulu Wang, we have Diane Pegasus, and then we have Deborah Chow, who's doing all the Star Wars, the IP for Star Wars right now. And that was never seen, never done before, right? We usually don't give as much opportunities to female, especially Asian female directors. And that's definitely changing. I also still think that, you know, in the indie film world, we have a lot of talent, a lot of, like you're saying, young up and coming talent. We need to nurture them and give them an outlet and somewhere, you know, to showcase their films. Because let's be real, like there's only X amount of film that could be in the theaters or X amount of films that, you know, can be shown. And now with streaming, with like video on demand and stuff, it opens a wider door so then their talent can be seen by a wider audience.
And you mentioned Star Wars. I was thinking on your resume, obviously you got to play, you play some badass characters yourself in Gotham. So you had your foot in the DC pool. You were in Iron Fist. So obviously you had the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but we haven't seen you in Star Wars yet. One of the characters a lot of people are clamoring to see would be Dr. Aphra. And I'm just saying, if a part or opened up in the Star Wars universe, is the Star Wars universe something you'd also like to get involved in?
Of course. Can you now like just put it out in that universe that Ceilia will get like a Star Wars gig? Thank you.
We're saying it now. Dave Filoni, if you're listening, I think Ceilia would make a great Dr. Aphra if you decide to introduce her in one of the upcoming series. Just my opinion. Can't hurt to put it out there, right?
Yes, put it out in the universe.
And I noticed too, you've got a great deal of range in your resume, from playing action roles to playing, you know, these drama parts like in A New York Minute, comedy aspect too. Do you find that you gravitate more towards one genre, or do you feel more comfortable in one genre over another?
No, not necessarily. I mean, the reason why I want to be an actor is so I can play pretend and get paid for it and and experience different characters, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think there's one thing that I'd be like, I prefer to do over another. I believe in like, you know, trying to be as much of a chameleon as you can as an actor, and that's important. So throw at me the genres, and hopefully people will pick me for these genres and, you know, cast me in them, and I'm down to try everything.
What you mentioned chameleon. It's one of the things I think of. One of my very favorite actors is Jeffrey Rush, because you'll watch this picture and be like, oh my gosh, he was in that movie, because he'll take on this persona and he swings between the different roles. I think that's obviously quite important as an actor, to have that ability to kind of, as you said, be a chameleon. That's kind of the job description. Yeah,
it's amazing when you can see someone transform completely, you know. Someone else like Christian Bale, you look at him, he's like changing even like physically how you the film.
Exactly. Yeah. When you were growing up, I know you were born, if I'm not mistaken, you were born in Hong Kong, moved to Brooklyn. At what age approximately did you come here?
Like 3.5, 4.
Okay. And did you, I'm just kind of wondering, what influenced your desire to be an actor? Was it something like a movie you saw, or a particular actor that you remember? Or was it just kind of, you had this desire, like you said, to play pretend and want to get paid for it?
You know, growing up, my parents owned a video store, but
oh, cool.
It was never like, you know, in a Asian family household to talk about like, let's have you explore the arts. I studied law in the beginning, then I went into business and then advertising and marketing. And actually, as I was working in advertising and marketing, I think it was my first class that I took, we went to the Museum of TV and Radio. And within there, they were talking about how 30 seconds can change people's perception. 30 seconds a 30-second jingle can subconsciously kind of, you know, brainwash you in a way that you think of like what in the 90s, people hear anytime like running horses sound, you think of Marlboro cigarettes. and you think of a cool cowboy. You think of the McDonald's jingle, and you suddenly are like, burgers and fries, that's what I need. I was like, wow, that's kind of like a superpower. I mean, I've watched superhero films growing up, and you're like, that's not real. You can't do that. But hey, if I worked in advertising, I kind of have this like mysterious superpower in 30 seconds to change people's perspective. And then after I was like, what can I do in turning the 30-second into something that's positive that could help people? Then I realized that corporate America, there's so many levels you have to go through that the creativity is still kind of hindered, right?
Right. Yeah, sure.
A little bit by corporate, like, you know, what your client wants and stuff. And then I discovered film and TV. Now, growing up, I got influenced by TV and films a lot. Like, I see a Law and Order, lawyers, you know, taking out criminals. I was like, I want to be a lawyer. That's one of the reasons why I studied law in the beginning. I was like, I want to be a prosecutor. I want to put the bad guys in jail and help the good guys, you know. And then I saw, you know, a show about police officers helping fight crimes. I'm like, I want to be a police officer. Seeing a firefighter, I'm like, wow, they're saving people. I want to do that, but I realized that I don't think I'm fit to do any of that. But as an actor, we can use the power of storytelling to influence people and show the humanity of these careers and these professions. Like, you know, you play a cop on television, you know, you play a lawyer. And as they influenced me when I was a kid, I was hoping, you know, whatever story and stuff that I'll work with and work on can influence, you know, the next generation and young people and have them feel like they're being seen, that they're not alone. And, you know, maybe troubles that they've gone through, even like in the characters in a New York Minute, giving them a voice. And so people don't feel so alone that there's no representation for them in the world.
What's your process as an actor when you are going to take on a role, be it, like you said, let's say you're playing a lawyer, if you're playing a street-level enforcer like in Gotham when you're working as a henchwoman in a gang, or something like in a New York Minute, what's your process for getting into a character? You kind of just dive into the script and the writing? Do you do like a whole character thing? Do you research other people who have been in this? Kind of talk a little bit, if you would, about getting into a certain character's mindset.
It changes depending on the job. I study with my coach Anthony Apeson, and he's always told us, like, try to close your eyes and imagine the scene that you're walking in. Imagine what the character is going through, and when you open your eyes, it will become a lot more genuine than you're trying to read it just straight off the page. So that's the process sometimes I use when I get stuck, for sure. I think that's great advice. In a New York Minute, Mandy, our director, has a film for me to watch, and it was a Hong Kong film, and she was like, I want you to watch this film and study that character, because how she feels like she's helpless, lonely, and trying to find her way, and cannot. Like, I feel like that's like the core of what Nina is. And I was like, sure. She did not tell me that it's a thriller with scary aspects. It was on the film. So she sends me the link to the film. I was watching it in my hotel room while shooting something else in Atlanta, and I couldn't sleep all night because the girl gets decapitated, killed, and then this is like this detective trying to figure out her case, and I'm like, great, now I'm gonna lock the doors in my hotel room. Sleep. I am so scared of any little sound that was like rattling in the room, and I'm like, someone's gonna get me. I'm gonna get murdered.
Sleeping with a baseball bat right beside you.
I can't. I don't have it in the hotel room.
Oh, that's right. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, that's how in the New York Minute I got into character, like talking to Mandy about what she wants, what this character goes through, and then we had rehearsal days with Roger, who plays Ian. So Roger and I would like work through our characters and figure out, like, you know, what our relationship would be like.
And I'm sure you get a little more time to prepare for something like on a movie like this, like in a New York Minute, versus if you're doing a TV series, especially if it's just 1 or 2 episodes. But some of the TV episodes you've been in quite a bit. For example, Lodge 49, Wu Assassins, you had quite a bit of screen time and a lot of episodes in those. Do you find yourself, I don't want to say more comfortable, but is it less stressful if you are into a character and you're doing several episodes of a TV series versus you've got this one movie to do it? Is one more or less stressful for you as a performer? We're going to come right back after this quick commercial break. Get that answer from Ceilia Au. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio. Please stand by.
Hey guys, this is Raoul Coley and I play Dr. Ravi Chakrabarti on the CW's iZombie, and you're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
We are back. Geek to Me Radio brought to you by our main premier sponsor, the City of St. Charles, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. Make sure you check out discoverstcharles.com. Go to the website, plan your trip there, discoverstcharles.com. As we always say, it's an historically good time. Before we took that last commercial break, we're chatting with Ceilia Au, and we'd asked her about the stress of preparing for a role in a film versus already doing one in an ongoing series.
I think it's all about, like, the time, right? Even though the running time on screen on a film is shorter than a TV show, you still spend a lot of time on set and getting to live in the character's shoes. In a TV show, since it's longer, there's time to build more layers as you go with the character as well. Like Alice Ba from Lodge 49, you know, we are adding different layers as it going. And in season 2, we all came back and it's like family already.
Yeah.
We built the rapport being like a family working together. So when season 2 came along, we all like jumped right back in. We know what we're doing. So that's fun. I wouldn't say easy, but it's just like, it feels they're comfortable and there's familiarity to that. And then like Wool Assassins, we shot for 3.5 months and it was in Vancouver. So we all the whole cast ended up being a real family. We'll cook for each other. We'll go do things together because we don't know anybody in Vancouver aside
Right.
from each other. And we have each other as literally there would be days during Wool Assassins where I'm not working and it was like, oh my God, it's a really long day. I'm like, okay, everybody, dinner's ready. Come home.
It's funny to think about too, how much stuff has changed because, you know, even like 15 years ago, if you were going to be doing a movie or TV series, LA or New York, now it seems like everything is Atlanta and Vancouver. It's very interesting how stuff has shifted. Do you have, as far as living wise, do you have a preference, like as far as a city that you just feel more is home for you?
Well, I'm a New Yorker, so New York is always home for me. But I don't mind traveling for work. It's also great they get to explore a city while working.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And there's on-site shoots and everything like that, too. What is the most, I guess, I don't want to say, I'm making sure I'm phrasing this correctly. What is the most intriguing location you've ever gotten to shoot in as far as a city or a place or a region?
In the beginning of 2019, was it 2019 or 2020? We went to India in Dharamsala to shoot another indie film. And that is something that I've never done before. I've never been to India, and it's so fascinating and seeing all the culture and the beauty and, you know, experiencing the food. And I just went shopping nonstop and was like, I want to buy everything. But, you know, seeing the mountain ranges in India, that's beautiful. And then we were staying in a town where the Dalai Lama's from.
Oh, wow.
So like getting to learn a little bit about Buddhism and stuff, it's also interesting. And I think religion, food, has a lot to tie with their culture. So, yeah, I think those are fun, exotic places to go to.
You've also worked as a writer and director. You've got a couple projects there under your belt, both Distraction and 2017 Extraction. I know since 2017, it's been mostly acting, though. Was directing and writing something you kind of wanted to try and you didn't care for? Or is it just you don't have time, you're acting in all these different projects, and that's something you do kind of want to circle back and do more of?
I mean, like what I told you earlier, right? Trying to convince people and my superpower storytelling and changing people's mind. Just as an actor, I don't think it's enough, right? You have to write, produce, and like if you can direct your film, that would be great too. Yeah. I haven't been directing as much. Just partially, I don't have anything in particular that I was like, oh, I want to direct now, and I can have the funds to do so. But I'm actually developing stuff currently. I'm working on a TV show that me and my creative partner Miki Ishikawa put together, and that we knock on wood, fingers crossed that we got it going. We just signed a development deal. So
congratulations.
Thank you. So hopefully that will work out. And then I'm with my other friend working on a feature film. I'm not the best writer out there, so I'm the one that usually come out with the concept. I write pages and pages of how I foresee the film go, and then I need someone to write the dialogue.
So you're the big picture person. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And then you'd have someone who you rely on to fill in details. I think that's a great partnership.
Yeah, I mean, my writer right now, Angela, she's great. She's a good friend, and she's like, I got you. I know what you're thinking. Let's write this down on the page.
As someone who's performed it with a lot of talented actors and you've worked with a lot of great writers and directors yourself, do you have someone who is on your bucket list? There is an actor and a director who at some point in your career you feel that you need to work with this person.
Oh my God, there's so many of them. Where do I start? One of which is, for me, is Michelle Yeoh, because I grew up watching her, and she's such a. There were multiple times that I was like auditioning things that they're like, oh, Michelle Yeoh's, and I'm like, oh, I got to work with her. And Meryl Streep is someone that I looked up to. I loved her when she was in like The Devil Wears Prada, and I've seen her transform from film to film, and talking about being a chameleon.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, Meryl Streep it's amazing. And director-wise, I was like, I had worked with some really cool new directors recently, and I'm hoping they'll blossom and I get to work with them again on bigger projects. I mean, like a dream director, it's so hard. There's so many out there that I think are so talented. Like I would love to work with, I'm trying to think of like which one if I get to pick out of everybody. Like I think like, you know, for example, I feel like this is such a cliche. Like people love Scorsese's work, right?
Sure.
And I like characters that he built. I think it's amazing. He was a producer on a film that I did back a while back, but I never got to work with him in that kind of way where he's directing me. Love to dive in to see like what these director thinks and like how they see the script and then the picture that they put together. I find that super fascinating. I worked with Tony Kaye, who did American History X.
Oh yeah.
My first speaking role in the film, and he taught me so much, just like talking to him and learning like how like things like he sees it in his head, and then seeing the end product, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I get why, you know, he's so talented and brilliant.
And I'm sure we'll see much more from you as this goes on. I'm now gonna be rooting for you. If I see you in a project, I'm like, oh, let's see if Michelle's. Oh, she's in the credit. Yes, she'll be working with Michelle or something like that. One of these feature films. Now I'm gonna be watching intently every time something comes out with you. Again, if you're listening right now, In a New York Minute is available on digital on demand as of May 3rd, so you can go right now if you're just hanging out after you get done listening to this. Go check that out. Where can people keep up with you on social media? Are you very active on social media? A website for you or anything like that?
You can find me across the platforms with the same handle at It's Ceilia Au. I'm on like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I'm not good with Snapchat, but I'm on Snapchat. I'm also on TikTok, also not good at TikTok.
I'll have links to all those social media handles in the show notes. My thanks again to both my guests. We've had Bryan Abrams talking about his documentary that we'll have a link for that out as well. Ceilia Au in a New York Minute, and obviously you can catch her on Woo Assassins. Thanks to all my sponsors, Marcus Theaters, Bugs Comics and Games, and the City of St. Charles, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. Thank you to all of you for listening, and if you would, make sure you're following me across social media on Facebook.com/GeekToMeRadio. Give the website a hit, GeekToMeRadio.com. We've got our preview, I should say our reviews of Elvis and Lightyear up. Until next week, my friends. Thank you, 1991. Good night.
Hey kids, are your parents about to buy you a shiny new toy from Amazon?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Well, don't be selfish. Share some of that money with us. Before going on Amazon, make sure to type in bit.ly/geek2me in the web browser. It will look just like Amazon.com, except it'll say referral Geek to Me Radio up top. And then when you check out, a tiny percentage will go to support the show without costing you 1 cent more. So before your parents get you that gizmo, gadget, or widget, make sure they type in bit.ly/geek2me in the web browser.
Bit.ly/geek2me. Bit.ly/geek2me.